So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show, live Thursdays. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I've sketched out a doodle page of my mushrooms, my doodles, and I sketched them out with a Derwent sketching pencil light wash, and hopefully that means that it will completely disappear and I'll not be seen very well. So I'm going to work, I've got my Derwent Graphitints. They are water soluble because they have the little brush on them, and I've got them in my sleeve. So I've just taken this out of the pencil case, and I have these in my BTSKY 216, and that's a pencil case that's almost the size of a suitcase. Sorry, not a briefcase, beg your pardon. And it's got 5 sleeves in it, so it holds quite a lot of pencils. So I've just scratched in port, and now I'm going slate green number 8, just shy of the line, because I want to create a bit of a difference. So I want dark areas and light areas, but I can go back if I want to later. So just very carefully scratch a little bit of colour. So we'll pop that in there. Oh, sorry guys, I had a coughing fit. So I scratched in a little bit of slate green, number 8. Left a bit of a gap. So I've got a tiny bit of a highlight without actually doing anything. So when that's completely, although it's dried, I'd like it completely dried, I'll go back in with a darker colour and I can create some shadows effects. But that's just doing nothing to it. So I'll zoom in and we'll see if we can get there. get a bit nearer so we can see exactly what we're doing. So just adjust the autofocus, which I don't think is too bad actually, but we'll just slightly better. So we've just got a bit of a highlight on there, which looks quite nice. So I'm using the number 1 Derwent brush because it doesn't, if you just use the tip, you don't get too much water, so I kind of like that. So we're just activating, activating just where we want. Now this isn't watercolour paper, this is just sketchbook paper, but it's the sea white. It's not extra strength, this one, but it is acid free. Just the sea white sketchbook paper, and it behaves itself quite well. Oh yes, Barb, it will. These water-based pencils, that they do everything a watercolour does. A watercolour pencil. The only one that doesn't is Ink 10s. Ink 10s pencils are the only ones that when they're wet and they've been activated, they'll move a little bit, but they won't reactivate. Whereas I'm pretty sure these will. And so will charcoal, because it's not ink based, it's watercolour based. Pastels will, if you scratch pastel and then wet it, that will reconstitute itself back, because it doesn't have a setting agent, where inks and acrylic inks have that setting agent in them. So I'm just going to go around and just gently. And of course, just like the Derwent watercolours, the pencil melts completely. There's no lines. You just have a lovely soft, kind of a grungy effect. They're a graphitint, so they're graphite pencil with a hint of colour. So I really like these gorgeous colours, and you can use them as a pencil as well. I've got a couple of videos, I think, on a Christmas page that I think it's Joanna Basford's Christmas. I think I did the clock with the robin, the clock page. And you've picked up colour, so we can actually carry on because we've picked up colour. Just a very soft hint of colour there. We've got 3 more to do. So it's kept the line of the actual sketching pencil, but all that scribble of green is melting really nicely. Try not to rub too much. So you could use these in your colour books, and again you could scratch colour and leave them and then activate them at a later date. And you can do this technique with any other watercolour pencils, but the grunginess of them is just so very nice to work. You can get these colours with ordinary pencils by adding By adding the complementary colour, that grunges them up, darkens them without adding black. Don't ever add black to get a darker tone. Not even Payne's grey, just put a little bit of complementary colour to it and it'll grunge it up beautifully. So I now have this green as a watercolour, so I can use it. So they're kind of really soft. So, oops, sorry guys. So they're a bit like convolvulus, is my take on them. So we've got slate green, green grey, meadow, ivy. So I think I might use this one. So again, I'm just going to put a little bit of colour and leave that top as a highlight. We can do a slightly different, so leave the top for the highlights. Sorry guys, if you've got any questions, pop them in caps, then I can spot them. Oh, sorry, Melody. No, I swapped to the Graphitint. I was playing with Derwent's. I was playing with the Derwent charcoal earlier, tinted charcoal. But these are the Derwent Graphitints because I've lost 2 pencils, so I haven't got the same colours. So these are Graphitint. Oh, welcome back, Suzanne. Having good trouble with chat at the minute. It's not playing very nice. So I've got those leaves, and I've got my pencils in this sleeve. Oops. And this is from my large pencil case, so I kind of like using them, and then I kind of slot them back so I can read all the names that I want. I don't think I'm going to put any other colour. I think I'm just going to use this one. So if we activate this side here, push it across, and then activate lower down, in theory we should get a natural highlight on top. But I've picked up some colour on the... So if I stroke that, you see I have picked up some colour. So again, we want that pale, and then activate the pencil that we've put on the page. Now you can use them on a paper palette. You have a lot more control on a paper palette. So that's the pale we've picked up, which acts as a highlight. And then we can kind of make that kind of dark now. Again, I've picked up a bit of colour. Very pale that compared to the next bit. And this is the Derwent water brush number. That's pale, but then we get this. So different brushes react slightly differently. And last, so I've picked up some colour so I can do the stalks. And then there's a paleness just enough. So as you can see, they just melt. And I do have a little bit of green left, so if I've made a bit of a boo-boo with a highlight, which I don't think I have, maybe the bottom one, I wouldn't want to be as light as that. just go over the top. And then just clean the brush. There's a little dot of colour, and I like that because that's all you waste. So I think I might do a darker background, we'll see. I was going to do a darker background. What we could just have a quick play with is, this is the sketching pencil. So let's see if we can get it completely disappear. Yes, that's quite nice. So this is the Derwent sketching paper HB light wash, and we can get that to almost disappear. Now this doesn't work with ordinary pencils. This is a proper Derwent sketching wash pencil. So if you can see the difference between one that's been drawn and one that's been wet. So we've got a russet colour, chestnut. There's an aubergine, and juniper is a nice colour. So I think I'm going to have a play with these little. I'll put a little bit at the bottom. Then we take our paintbrush and activate it, and then push it up to give a beautiful soft effect. So again, activate that colour, push it around. And you have to be fairly comfortable for this. You need to turn your page round. Now I kind of like working with these from a paper palette because you have more control. But I wanted to show how versatile these were. And again, you could do the whole of your colour page if you were going to do it in a colour page. I think I've done 2 pages in Joanna Basford's Christmas. There's 2 videos using these pencils. They are, I don't mix them with anything else. They are so unique. I like them on their own. They just have this kind of mottled, grungy look. Really pretty colours. So the last one and I apologise for the snoring dog in the background. We have an Alfie who's asleep, bless him. So he's been good, but we don't know what he's dreaming about, do we? So the lightest one we have is rainbow, but I think, again, I always like to pop it back. It goes back into there. There's a dark indigo, and there's the autumn brown. So I'll show you the autumn brown because it's what I would call a reddy brown. So I'm going to put a little bit in here. And remember, you've got to really let that dry first. It doesn't like it otherwise. So I use that as kind of a dull brown, a dull red, beg your pardon. because we don't really have a red. But the colours seem to just like each other. It's a kind of a grungy effect. Has anybody got any questions? Pop them in caps. So I've got some daisies. I'm going to go back into here and see if I can get these a bit darker now. So this was number 2, sorry, beg your pardon, port number 1. It's the only pinky red there is. So you want to do this off your page to the side, but so you can see what I'm doing. I shall leave mine on, because if you splatter you will get lovely splatters, but we don't want splatters on this particular. So this is very strong now. So there's lots of different ways that you can manipulate these, but we can put a little bit of strongness if we want. And keep the highlight. And then we can get the I think I used slate green. So again we can just take a little bit of this. And remember, this is full on colour now. So we've created a little bit of a shadow. So you go into this one here, and we can really get that dark. So if we painted every everyone and really create a shadow effect. So you can get that, and we're not using any other colours, we're just adding but you have to wait for it to dry, because this particular sketchbook is almost like a colour book page. It doesn't mind a little bit, but it doesn't like too much water. And if you wanted real precision, we can get a finer brush. It's just a cheapie, but it does go to a point. Oops, does it? Might do. And then we can kind of, probably just not go into that one. Don't think that's small enough. We have some quite fine brushes. This is called a spotter, or it's a 5-0, and it's tiny as that one. So if I wet it and then I show you the end of the pencil. Now I'm hoping this is not a broken one. And you can really get, I think that's, this is a pure sable 3-0. That's quite tiny, but when you wet it, it gets even smaller. So you can get some detail. So you can get some quite fine detail on it. Oopsie. Very good. Let's throw my pencil away. My paintbrush away. It seems all my brushes I use them for oil painting, so they're all, none of them will go to a point. And some are really broken. Some are very broken. But I did some pretty fine detail when I did my degree, so my paintbrushes got trashed. That one. Yeah, it's split is that one. It's not behaving itself. So I'll zoom out and you can see what happens to the paper when I zoom out. You get quite nice effects. So even though I only did something twice, you could go into it so many other times. And the little flowers at the back as well. So when you see it as a whole, it looks like we do have a natural kind of softness about it. And then of course the berries, I've brightened up that little bit. So I just thought I'd show very quickly how you can actually use these these graphitints. I prefer to use them from a paper palette because you have so much more control, and you can scratch different ones as well, but kind of like these lovely soft flowers. These are quite pale. Have a very quick look at there's a storm and a warm grey, so look for storm. Now I do have a colour swatch for these, but I don't know what I've done with it. So I think I'm just going to scratch a little bit of colour on that one. And here as well. Now I don't normally sharpen my pencils, so I've always got a soft edge, so you don't have many sharp lines. So just scratching that little bit of colour over. And there's a cocoa colour. I think I may just put a little bit of that as a shadow. Just round there. We've got 16 and we've got 18, so do try to put them back in the little pots because I do find them easy to work from. It's like having a little tray, but they're not going to go anywhere. So we'll try the smaller brush, the Derwent number 1, and just activate this little bit here. You see that's quite nice. Just a nice soft colour, and then we're just creating that shadow effect. So we can just take a little bit of colour back. So it's given a really nice, gentle, soft. Sorry, Suzanne, it's terrible. Oh my goodness! Oh dear, chat's being very naughty. Sorry guys, I'm just see if I can. I can see chat, Melody, but it disappears. It's stuck, and then because I've got 12:36, I don't know what time we are on now. It's a bit behind, so it's Ustream is not it's not behaving itself very well today. So again, clean the brush just in case. Now I want to start here, and again this is just going to melt, so it's a bit awkward because they're going to have to go around all those little fronds. Now it seems to be getting a bit darker, but I think that might pan out a little bit. So we've got that mixture of the two colours, and of course the Derwent pencils are magic for that, because you can put lots of colours together and you don't get mud. So trying to just activate the tip of this brush. I find if you activate the whole of the brush you get more water, and I don't really want more water. I want a consistent steady flow, but I don't want a lot. And all the other colour brushes, watercolour brushes, always gush out, and I don't really want that. So try and just activate the tip of the brush. So once you start this, I think it's one of those things you can't stop, because you'll get a line, and I don't think we really want a line. Just mix and manoeuvre that paint up towards that top. So now we've got a softness almost to nothing now. So again, this is what we wanted. We wanted that to almost nothing. So we get a bit of a natural highlight. So we have a sage colour. I think sage would be quite nice. Oh, there's a storm colour, which again I used to have. I did used to have these in my colour book, but I took them out. Again, that's quite a nice soft mushroomy colour. Activate it and push it round. Definitely a mushroom colour. Completely disappeared there. Let me just put a little bit more darker under there. Now there is a black, but I don't think I want to use black. I think there's a cool grey. I think we'll use or dark indigo. I think I like to use, if I can. So I'm going to put the back rise of the step will be darker, and then we could use it higher up. So get it on there, use it higher up, get it on there, and then I do want a bit of a cocoa colour, so I'm just touching the end of the brush so that I can pick up some brown for the little doorway. And inside the windows. So that was just a very quick look at the Graphitint, using them scratched on a paper, and it's just a sketchbook paper, so it's probably like some good quality colour book pages. Scratching it and manipulating it with a damp brush. So thanks for watching.